Last season, the Central Coast Mariners won a continental treble, something that no Australian team had ever done before. They won the A-League Premiership, the Championship, and the AFC Cup. But this year, from 8 attempts in the Asian Champions League Elite, they won exactly 0 games. It was a remarkable fall-off, but this has happened before. Why did they drop off so far, and why is this such a consistent pattern for Australian teams competing in Asia? Well, in this clip from the Final Frontier podcast, Matt Olsen explains.
Let me just explain something about the Mariners and what's happened there. So, I mean, Ulsan, their decline is really quite something, given that they did win the Champions League. They are, a heavyweight of Korean football. And the one thing that you may have observed over time is that there are no consistent heavyweight teams in Australia. And this is obviously because, similar to the MLS, we run a franchise system and a salary cap. But we run a salary cap that doesn't really have a whole lot of income in it. And because of different issues with broadcasting and with the governance of the actual league itself, there has been a consistent turnover in that salary cap actually being reduced. So we run an equilibrium where each team kind of has their chance at the top, and that's okay within the kind of the season where that team is good, right? The Mariners were playing AFC football. They had to go as far west as Kyrgyzstan while still winning games in the A-League. They comfortably ended up making our final system. They won the grand final. And then, they topped it off by winning the AFC Cup as well. If that team was the team in that bracket, it looks completely different. They are comfortably a top 8 team. But the issue is, we end up sending teams to the Champions League the season after, that because of the cap system and the signings and the way everything works, you essentially have a completely different team, and one that in 9 out of 10 situations is going to end up being worse, right? So we end up essentially submitting a team that's not good enough to typically be in our top 4, let alone be good enough to be in the Champions League, to a lot of those Champions League competitions. And where it becomes quite upsetting in the Mariners' case is they won everything that was available to them. And if they were playing at the higher level of continental football, they would have represented Australia a lot better. Our coefficient really just ended up really being screwed over by a lot of that. And I think a lot of East Asian people, they just see the Australian, flag next to a team's name and they think, okay, we can chalk this up as a win. They're not going to be able to travel well because it's so far away, and you just end up in this rut. So, it's a really, really unfortunate situation that's beset them, but there's not really a lot they can do. And even within our league at the moment, they're sitting 8th and they're struggling. They're basically going all out to play in our playoffs. And the Champions League was never really a priority for Mark Jackson and the Mariners. So it's a really, really, really tragic situation.